As Riot meets with Eager, they go on a silent walk. After a while, Riot tells Eager a story from his past as a slave, how he has also loved and lost, but in a far crueler way. He leaves Eager with one final question to stew over. Whose happiness is more important, yours or hers? Riot heads for the celebration and Eager stands around, thinking on that question. He doesn't have much time though, as Uka comes towards him to ask what's bothering him. They head towards the waterfall and speak in private, where Eager finally pours his heart out to her. The weather turns gloomy as emotions run high, and the two break down in tears from being confronted with Uka's misunderstandings and Eager's unrequited feelings. They decide to take time to individually figure out their feelings and promise each other to always be there for the other. Uka leaves him with a kiss on the cheek and heads back towards the celebration, less enthusiastic than before. Avis, who was watching the two of them converse, asks him if he wants her to hear him out again, but he declines. Spears and Jimny are still working on the growth ritual, Bortusk watching from nearby, when Uthmar shows up, soaking wet and looking rather annoyed, forcefully completes the ritual and warns Spears again to keep Bortusk in line and be careful around Eager, as his emotions cause his powers to run rampant and influence his surroundings, such as the weather. She then transforms her dark gown into a gorgeous dress and struts over to Uka to give her a blessing for her new bond, the tribesman backing off to let her through. Uka is very uncomfortable but accepts, and Uthla then heads off to find Tallow, who Riot took out training despite his inebriated state. She also blesses him and proceeds to talk with Riot about the blessing he still owed and his apprehensions about being with Nala. She berates him for putting her safety above her love for him and commands him to accept her despite the risk. Uthla leaves and Riot returns to the celebration with the still hammered Tallow, congratulating Uka on her bonding and gifting her his mother's tear gem. Uka starts drinking way more than usual, which Magna knows is a sign that something is amiss. She pulls her aside and attempts to find out what's up, but Uka refuses to tell, angering her to the point of slapping Uka. Uka starts ugly crying and Magna proceeds to use magic to cure her inebriation, still unable to voice proper sentences. Magna calms down and hugs her daughter, sensing she's deeply saddened by something, but not ready to come clean yet. She cleans her up and sends her back to the party to take her mind off. While the party continues, Spears begrudgingly indulges Bortusk in one of his dumb ideas, gathering snake venom by wild shaping into a giant venomous snake and milking him dry the entire rest of the day. As the celebration ends, Avis goes to see Magna to get her to perform the connection strengthening ritual she promised. They go deeper into the cave until they reach a plain altar room, and Magna explains what the ritual will hopefully achieve, taking the spiritual strings connecting Avis to Uthla and weave them together like a rope. The ritual begins and goes relatively smoothly, but suddenly seems to run out of control. Avis screams in pain as her body begins to burn with heat, her heart rate picks up, and her stored magic power explodes outward in a wave of fire and lightning. Suddenly it stops, and Uthla appears before her, smiling. She speaks a few words which cannot be heard and fades again, as all the color in Avis's vision fades to a dull grey, lit only by the moonlight. Slowly the ritual ends, her body completely spent and sore. As she leaves the cave, the rest of the party comes running at the sound of her screams. But they arrive to see she's looking quite different. Her jet black hair has turned an ethereal white, and her eyes have turned from full red to a bluish white with a red outer rim and a green inner rim. They attempt to help her, but as they touch her, her skin starts to peel off. Even healing her has the opposite effect, as it causes her burned skin to reattach, only increasing her intense pain. Jimmy uses magic to try and understand what's happened to her. She discovers Avis has a second heartbeat and is overflowing with primordial energy, almost as if she isn't strictly human anymore. Igor cleans her up a bit without touching her, and the party brings her back to her tent, where her guardian quickly uses high magic to properly heal her. They head back to their tents and turn in for the night. Bortos goes out at night to speak with the spirits about the other guardians of Erla, but they remain silent, seemingly afraid of something. He notices the residual magic in the air is practically gone. Even his weapon is inactive, as if its magic has been drained. He heads deeper into the forest, unsure of what awaits him. Bortusk continues to wander through the woods until he notices a dark area in the distance. In his mind, Riot's words finally kick in. Do better. And he decides to turn back from this horrible idea. However, he is somehow unable to move away from it, not even standing still. He sounds his horn to alert the tribe and cautiously moves closer. The rest of the party is awakened by the tribe guards, and they head out to find Bortusk. As he approaches the dark area, Bortusk discovers that the light source is the spatial rift from which the horror came. He studies his surroundings and prepares himself to hold it off until reinforcements arrive. But what comes crawling out of the portal is not the horror he saw before. Instead, a much larger one, proclaiming its excitement over fresh meat for its children. This is the true horror of hunger, and it instantly rushes at him. Bortusk bobs and weaves through the terrain to avoid getting caught by its massive, spiny arms. But every time he finds some cover, it instantly rips it apart. Eventually, the rest of the party arrives, to which the true horror responds.
Can't fight your own battles? And let's even the odds.
And calls forth its children, 4 lesser horrors. A full-on war ensues, during which Avis accidentally takes Bortusk out, and Igor transports himself to the spirit realm where creation begins, and the spirits are not happy to see him.